The Rhythm of Life by Matthew Kelly. Living every day with passion and purpose. So some piece from this beautiful book, The Second Instrument. The second instrument I used to do to rediscover the rhythm of life I call this sacred hour. Essentially, it consists of an hour of prayer and reflection, but not necessarily in the way you may currently conceive an hour of prayer to be. If you are not in the habit of praying, the idea of praying for an hour may seem frightening and even impossible. Be open. Open your heart and open your mind to a new understanding of prayer. The purpose of prayer is to help you make the journey from point A to point B and to become the best version of yourself, which indeed is the purpose of life. The common mistake is to think of a prayer as easy. I assure you, prayer is the most difficult thing in the world to do. In prayer, we find ourselves standing on the edge of a deep, dark abyss, the world of a divine, infinite, and eternal. In prayer, we come face to face with ourselves and face to face with God. And in different times, both of these encounters can be very frightening. Prayer is difficult. Those who learn to master prayer come to master themselves. And those who come to master themselves become the instruments of tremendous good, able to master every other human activity. In my life, I believe that everything good comes from knowing and living in the will of God. I believe that I was created for a purpose. I believe that there is a plan for each of us, a divine blueprint, a mission. That plan perfectly intertwines our talents, our legitimate needs, and our deepest desires to bring about this perfect harmony about body, heart, mind, and spirit. In following that plan, I believe we find peace and prosperity, freedom and fulfillment. We may, of course, reject this plan, this blueprint, this mission, and there lies a mystery of freedom and love. The will of God is the perfection and the creature. The will of God is that you make the journey from point A to point B. Each step along that path forms an allegiance and bond with the will of God. It is in His journey that we discover the glory of life. It is in the prayer that we discover the glory of God. And it is by living what we discover in prayer that we become the glory of God. The will of God is that you become the better person you know you can be. The best version of yourself. Your unique personality, talents, needs, and desires are what make your journey different from mine. All of these are unveiled in a classroom of silence. Praise the great classroom of silence. During my travels over the past 10 years, I have continually heard people whisper, "How did he become so wise at such a young age?" Wisdom is not a mass of accumulated knowledge. Wisdom is those little pieces of knowledge that have the power to change our lives. Wisdom is truth lived. Wisdom is the fruit of a reflective heart. Wisdom is the fruit of silence. When I was 19, God touched my life in a very powerful way. It was at that time leading up to when I first began speaking that I began to pray seriously and that I felt God inviting me into the classroom of silence. For almost 6 months every day, I would sit alone in peace, pondering and reflecting upon my life, the world, God, and the scriptures for 3, 4, 5, sometimes 6 hours at a time. You can learn more in an hour of silence than you can in a year from books. Noise is the mouthpiece of the world. Silence is the mouthpiece of God. It is in the classroom of silence that God bestows His infinite wisdom on men and women. We live in a noisy world. People wake up to clock radios, listen to the news while they shower, watch television while they eat breakfast, get into the car and listen to the morning shows on the way to work, listen to music all day over the intercom, talks instantly on a phone between any number of meetings. We need a break from the noise. Everything great in history has arisen from silence, even great noise. Beethoven and Mozart closed themselves off from the world and inhabited silent rooms for days at a time in order to hear things that no one else could hear, sounds so glorious that they themselves would never hear in the midst of the world, and yet sounds that the world would never know if Beethoven and Mozart had not befriended silence. USA Today conducted a survey, the last year, in which people were asked to name the 10 things they feared the most. The most feared was death, and then flying. After flying, silence, followed closely by public speaking, dogs, snakes, and spiders. Why do we fear silence? Why do we avoid silence? Silence introduces us to ourselves, for better or for the worse. Silence convicts, suggests, and challenges, yes, but silence also consoles, heals, comforts, clears the mind, and gives courage to the weary heart. Peace is the fruit of silence. Why do we fear and avoid silence? The truth is, most people believe that everything within them is worthless and embarrassing. That is why we live in a world terrified of silence and full of people dedicated to imitating other people instead of developing the unique individual that they are themselves. Befriend silence. I'm not suggesting you spend 4, 5, 6 hours a day in silence. Drop by church during the day when it is empty and quiet. Find a quiet corner and a comfortable chair at home. Leave the radio off in the car on the way to work. Have a television-free evening once a week. Try it. It works. I close my eyes so that I may see things that I could never see with my open eyes. Things that would never come to be if I did not close my eyes. I enter the classroom of silence to listen, and there I hear things I would never hear in a noisy world. The murmurings of my heart and soul that lead me to my future. What are you prepared to do to significantly increase the level of peace, happiness, and fulfillment in your life? How far are you prepared to go? How much are you prepared to give? Are you prepared to give 1 hour a day? I would like to encourage you to set aside 1 hour a day. This time becomes another landmark in our day and help us to restore and maintain the rhythm of life. It's difficult to set aside 1 hour a day, I know, but I'm doing to try to convince you that it is worth making the effort and initial sacrifice. For this 1 hour, I want you to pray. I do not want you to go into your church and mindlessly repeat prayers that you were taught as a child until you either fall asleep or you're bored out of your praying. I would like you to discover the joy of prayer. I want this time to be a joy for you. If prayer were something you loved and longed for, you would have no difficulty spending 1 hour a day in prayer. The secret to prayer is discovering dynamic ways to make it something you love and long for, something you know and are comfortable with. Prayer is like a great love. When you start dating, the silence can be awkward, but as you grow to each other, you can sit in silence for hours as just being with each other is a great comfort. When you're dating, you don't go to the same restaurant every time and eat the same food and have the same conversation. Variety brings vitality to a relationship. Life is creative. Just as we must be creative in the ways we spend time with those we love, we must be creative in the ways we spend time with ourselves and with God. Over time, all relationships develop certain rituals and staples, but these remain vibrant only when they are surrounded by dynamic variety. The same is true in our prayer life. Our spiritual diet may consist of certain rituals and staples, but there is a constant need of dynamic variety. What is missing in your life? Whatever it is, the first step to finding it or regaining it, it is time for you. Most people don't have 15 minutes time for themselves each day. One of the first things we established in part first was that we know the things that make us happy. We just don't do them. Why? We forget. We get distracted. We need this time for ourselves to remember. Remember what? Time to remember what matters most. Give this hour to yourself each day as a gift. Make it a habit in your life, a ritual in your day. Give it priority all over the little things that distract you and drain you. Discipline yourself to do it. Every disciplined effort has its own multiplier rewards. There are hundreds of ways to pray, and in time you will discover which ways work best for you. Some are more active and some are more passive. Some forms of prayer draw upon nothing but the murmurings of our hearts, and others draw upon the scriptures and other inspirational writings. Some days we pray best in a quiet church, and other days we pray best walking a sunny beach. My intention here is merely to share some ideas with you to construct a college from some of my personal experiences of prayer in a hope that we may be helpful and insightful to you. Sometimes my heart is tormented by restlessness and anxiety. Sometimes my mind is distracted by 100 little problems. Sometimes my spirit is burdened and I feel the weight of the world upon my shoulders. It is often at these times that I find myself wandering into church and sitting quietly in the presence of God. Prayer allows me to put into words exactly what is troubling me. I sit in a quiet place, close my eyes, and in a gentle mental dialogue, I tell God what is on my heart and mind. I explain what is bothering me. I explain the situation. I tell Him how I feel and why I feel that way. When I'm finished, I sit there in silence and listen. Usually by the time I'm finished explaining, I know what it is I need to do. Most of us know what we should and need to do, but that knowledge gets buried beneath the messages of the world and the opinions of family and friends. Sometimes we just need someone to talk to or someone to listen to us. How often we begin to talk to someone about a problem, and before we're finished explaining the situation to that person, we see things much more clearly in our own mind. And we know what we should do? God is the great listener. Some days I'm so distracted by the happiness of the day that I'm simply unable to concentrate enough to engage in this dialogue. On those days, I like to use some reading material to bring me into focus to help me concentrate. I'm fascinated with the light of Jesus, a leader who for himself wanted nothing, which in itself is a great sign of sincerity and honesty. I'm fascinated with the Gospels, which tell us of his life and teachings. They are so simple yet deeply profound and potent. Very often I use the life of Jesus in the Gospels during his sacred hour. Slowly, deliberately, reflectively, I read over a short passage once, twice, 3 times, trying to delve into the and extract some of the mystery and wisdom. Reading can be a very powerful tool to bring us into focus during prayer. Read slowly, savor the words, ponder what they mean to you in your particular circumstances. There are hundreds of books that would serve as good companions for the sacred hour. On other days when I find myself entering the sacred hour restless and anxious, I use the meditation of a red rose, which I have spoken of so often in my talks and seminars. I begin by sitting in a quiet place, sitting comfortably, sitting still and closing my eyes. Then in my mind's eye, I envision before me a single red rose. In the Middle Ages, the single red rose was a symbol of Christ. If you travel through Europe, you will often find this image in the stained glass windows of the great cathedrals. You will also find it was used to decorate many of the manuscripts of that period. For you, it could be any image that leads you to focus your attention on God and the perfection you seek. With my attention now focused on the rose, I slowly allow all other thoughts to flow out of my mind. Distractions are inevitable. When I realize that a thought or idea has re-entered my mind, as soon as I am aware that I have been taken hostage by a distraction, I free my mind once again by returning to the single red rose in my mind's eye. Over a few minutes, my mind is able to still and my heart and soul begin to hiding in awareness. I find myself in the presence of God. Some days, my whole time of prayer can consist of this exercise of stillness and focus. It is one of my favorite ways to spend my time on planes. On most days, I use this meditation for a few minutes to begin my prayer before moving on to one of the other forms of prayer we have discussed. We must learn to turn from the outer life of noise and confusion toward the inner life of silence and serenity. One of the classic concepts from the Bible is, "Be still and know that I am God." The stillness is important. In this stillness, we are able to contemplate the things of the Spirit. The stillness frees us from the limitations of the body and sets the spirit free to soar. The spirit within us is fearless. The spirit within us does not doubt, it knows. In the stillness, we form a connection with the spirit within. Through this practice, over time, we come to perceive ourselves as a spiritual being having a physical experience rather than just a physical being. In discussing the rose meditation, I mentioned that I would sit still, When I say still, I mean completely still. No movement whatsoever, not even a fraction of an inch. The only movement is a gentle rising of my chest as I breathe. Sit up straight but not forced. Erect but relaxed. Place both feet flat on the ground, spaced comfortably apart. Rest your hands on your lap. And now sit still, completely still. Let me warn you. If you try to practice this method of prayer, there are some common traps. Within 30 seconds of making yourself comfortable and resolving to be still, your body will object and inform you that it is uncomfortable. 30 seconds ago, you were reasonably comfortable. A more comfortable position is only an illusion. If you move to find a more comfortable position, you will spend your entire time of prayer shifting and moving approximately every 30 seconds, and once again the body will have trumped. If you're able to ignore the temptation to search for the position that is perfectly comfortable, you will overcome the first obstacle, inform the body who is master, and move to a deeper level. Your next hurdle will come within 2 minutes. You will have it each, perhaps on your hand, your neck, your nose, or just under your eye. Your body will beckon you to scratch the itch. To do so, you will have to move, which will break the dominance of mind and spirit of a body. Don't. Acknowledge the itch and ask yourself, is it bearable? Will it kill me to ignore it? Of course it is bearable, and it certainly will not kill you. Stay still, ignore it. Once you resolve not to respond to the call of the body, the itch will increase in intensity for a few moments. Then, as you resolve not to respond builds, the itch will fade. Without this, you will be progressing into new levels of stillness, silence, solitude, all leading you to oneness with the spirit within. Another danger is that as we become silent and still, our minds clear. The calm produces clarity of thought. You will be reminded of things that you had forgotten, things that you need to do. All of these are temptations to stop. For me, I find that as soon as I come into the stillness and silence, this calm produces all types of writing ideas. My temptation is to stop praying and to write, but I find that if I ignore those initial temptations, I am led to even deeper ideas later in my prayer. These temptations will re-emerge occasionally: itches, discomfort, distractions, the temptation to stop, to scratch, the temptation to shuffle into a more comfortable position. I tell myself it won't kill me, and I ignore it. It irritates for a few moments, sometimes minutes, but then it goes away, and with that victory, we're taken to even higher places of contemplation. It is in those places that I have experienced the most glorious moments of my life. The experience cannot be described, but if you're able to taste it for a moment, just once, you will long and yearn for it every day, and then prayer will become your passion and pleasure. You will go to the classroom of silence every day for the peace and guidance to discover who you are and to summon the strength to be true to yourself. Only then will the words I have placed on the pages of this book take on their full meaning for you and your life. You will reread these lines and discover layer upon layer of meaning. You are about to discover how difficult it is to sit still. If you persevere, you will discover the unfathomable power of stillness and silence. Only in this state, I believe, can we come to truly know the deepest needs and desires of our being. Prayer is a concentration. In prayer, we close ourselves off from the world, from people, places, the positions, and abandon the seduction of noise and close our eyes. But from this concentration is born the most remarkable expansions, and we are empowered by the divine spirit to see things before unseen, to hear things before unheard, and to become an unimagined creation. Prayer is a contraction that produces an expansion. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know. Be still. Be. There are days when I like to spend a sacred hour taking a long walk in a quiet place. I like to walk slowly, making sure not to lose my breath. I like to try to walk like a man who hasn't a care in the world, as I described in part 4. It is amazing the difference the way you breathe can make. For example, if you are in a pressure situation or you are frustrated, how are you breathing? Heavily and quickly, short breaths. Now concentrate on your breathing. Breathe slowly and deeply. Within minutes, your whole demeanor can be changed and controlled. Another example, you get into the shower and water turns freezing cold. You're stunned. Your reaction is to gasp, taking in short breaths of air. Breathe deeply and you will be able to tolerate the cold water. How you breathe during prayer is important. When you first begin your prayer, pay attention to your breathing. Breathe slowly and deeply. This will help you to calm down, relax, and surrender to the peacefulness of prayer. We eliminate stress and invite relaxation by returning our focus to the basics of life. There is nothing more fundamental than breathing. Breathe. Don't forget to breathe. The way you breathe can change your state more quickly than any other controllable psychological aspect of the human person. The sacred hour is a time of renewal and refreshment. It is the time of spiritual nourishment. It is a time to slow down and remind ourselves of what is really important. The sacred hour is an opportunity to bring focus and direction to our lives, a time to dream and visualize. Yet our prayer should not be confined to this 1 hour each day. At the end of my sacred hour each day, I feel peaceful, I feel confident, I can handle the events and situations that are before me. But after 5 minutes back into the hustle and bustle of daily life, it is so easy to lose that peace and focus. Sometimes life shakes up us a little. We become disoriented, overwhelmed, consumed by the day-to-day happenings of our lives. Britain's Royal Navy has a practice known as all still. When sometimes goes wrong on a ship, when something goes wrong on a ship, particularly a submarine, the captain announces in all still. For 3 minutes, no one is allowed to move or speak. Our lives are an expression of what is within us. Life is an overflow of the heart. If within you are confused, frustrated, and exhausted, your actions will tell the same story. 3 minutes of silence and stillness can have an exponential effect in the middle of a turbulent situation. In my own life, I have found that between meetings, phone calls, or in the middle of a group project, and all still can make all the difference. It is an opportunity to catch my breath and put things in perspective. There is no greater force to live by than faith. Prayer gives us vision, courage, strength, and endurance. Prayer dissolves our prejudices, banishes our narrow-mindedness, and melts away our judgmental tendencies by expanding our hearts, minds, and spirits. We pray to God on our knees, but we also pray in peace, joy, love, and laughter. Life is a prayer. Perhaps now would be a good time to take a couple of minutes to pray. This is the rest of a prayer Francis wrote in the 12th century. Born in Assisi in Italy, he was the founder of the Franciscan Order of the Friars. He had a profound love of nature and approached all living beings, creatures, and entities and others as brothers and sisters. His prayer is as profound and powerful today as it has ever been. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. When there is an injury, let me sow pardon. When there is doubt, let me sow faith. When there is despair, let me sow hope. When there is darkness, let me sow light. Where there is sadness, let me sow joy. Why are they successful at everything? Have you ever noticed that successful people seem to be able to do everything well? This is not because of some freak chance, not because of the foundation upon which they build their lives. The foundation of their lives is a strong commitment to personal development, to struggling to become the better person they know they can be in every area of their lives, which in turn transforms their family, relationships, community, country, and world. Truly successful people have character. Part of their character is an unwavering commitment to excellence. They know the art of discipline. Successful people just have better habits than the rest. You are your habits. Successful people are in the habit of being disciplined. Undisciplined people are in the habit of being unsuccessful. Some people wake up each morning and just stagger through the day. Some people wake up to be successful. Whether it is success in the business world, success in a spiritual life, or success in a sporting field, the principles are the same. The application of these principles to any person's life necessarily breeds character and in turn success, fulfillment, and happiness. Don't be a do person, be a be person. You are not a human doing, you are a human being. You may decide to reject the vision of life I'm laying before you in this book. That's okay. But regardless of what you choose to seek from life, which rainbow you choose to chase, there will be difficult times that you will put you to the test, and you will need courage and perseverance to achieve your goals and dreams. What is that sets men and women of great achievement apart from the rest of humanity? What do Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, John F. Kennedy, Warren Buffett, Albert Einstein, John Quincy Adams, Ronald Reagan, Charlie Chaplin, Michael Jordan, Leonardo da Vinci, Beethoven, Mother Teresa, and Billy Graham all have in common? What empowers them to touch and affect so many people's lives? What allows them to grasp success and reach levels of achievement that for most people are simply unfathomable? Passion. They are passionate about what they do. Belief. They believe in what they do. Commitment. They are committed to what they do. Courage. In the face of situations where other people would lose heart, they take heart. Perseverance. Through the discouragement of failure, rejection, and criticism, they persevere and keep at it, always staying focused on their goal and dream. Passion, belief, commitment, courage, and perseverance. And so it will be with your life. There will be tough times. There are for everyone. There will be the times of fear and trembling. There will be the times of discouragement and disillusionment. Have courage. Smile. Keep your chin up. Laugh often. Be kind to yourself. Stay focused. Be gracious and appreciative. Think happy thoughts and carry on regardless.